Okay, welcome everyone to the Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners meeting, March 15th, 2021. Call the meeting to order at 5:28. And I'll read a statement here. Due to COVID-19 and the state of the emergency, public participation will be offered by webinar. You can join the webinar by going to a Zoom link. And that Zoom link is on the agenda for today's meeting. And that agenda is on the MVD website at mvdwater.org. Or you can call 646-876-9923 and enter the webinar ID 856-2203-6355. And as a courtesy, Merrimack TV is also recording the meeting and will be posted on their website at a later date, and probably also on channel 20 as well. So I'll just go around and do a quick roll call of all commissioners if you want to state where you're present from, and if anybody else is in the room. And myself, I'm Don Preventure. I'm in my home at 6 Wasserman Heights and I'm alone. Wolf?
Wolf von Schön, 4 Conservation Drive at my home, and I'm by myself in the room.
Thank you. Paul?
Paul McLaughlin. I'm here at my home at 31 Peter in Merrimack, and my wife may be in and out of the room, but currently I am alone.
Great. Ken?
I'm Ken Harris, 19 Jakes Lane. I'm home.
Okay, thanks. And oh, here's John. Good. He's connecting in. Hey, John, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. We were just going through roll call, so if you can let us know where you're calling from and if anyone else is with you.
25 Windsor Drive. I'm in the dining room and Minnie's in the living room.
Okay. All right, so we can get right into it. I think we want to rise and have a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance
to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thanks everyone. So first on the agenda is Human Finance Resource Review with Michelle Holton.
Okay, being through February, we are 2/3 of the year through at 66.67% as a reference point. As far as revenues, we're right at 66.1. We're hoping in the coming months as the year finishes out, and we've seen some of the COVID restrictions are being lifted. We've seen some of the water usage coming in better than it had in some instances. But we don't know exactly how things are going to play out through the rest of the year. So we're just, keeping a close eye. Also looking at any expenditures that have flexibility, pushing them off as we can to later in the year, and then making our decisions accordingly after we see the revenues that do come in. There was one minor adjustment I had just found as I was going through the revenue listing. So an additional 4,700 was added to water sales for mercantile, and that was taken away from service charges miscellaneous. So that would have water sales at 125,855 for mercantile and at 44.1%. The backflow procedure has resumed, so most of those revenues do come in at this time of the year through the end of the year. So we expect that to be in line with where it has been in the past. Also, we will be resuming our late fees and disconnect process as of July 1st. Ron, Jill, Amy, and myself will be meeting tomorrow to just go over how we're going to handle that and how we're going to communicate that to our customers. And as far as on the expense side of things, we're a bit ahead of where we were last year. About $175,000 difference. We're at 55.9, and the prior year was at 55.1. So as I said, we're monitoring the expenses to see where things will come in. There is one line item, engineering, 81900. At present, we are at about $80,000, which puts us at 90.6% of the budget for the year. But one of the item C that we're going to be reviewing is going to be requesting to take some of the funds that are being paid out of budget and have them paid out of the new well/source development funds. So that will bring that down. About $37,000 that would come out of there if agreed upon by the board, and that would be reimbursed from the new well source funds. So otherwise, as I said, we're monitoring things and just proceeding accordingly as we see the revenues come in each month. Does anyone have any particular line item questions?
The only question I had was, unless anyone else has one first, I didn't want to jump the gun there. But just on the 40200 and 40300, the water sales, mercantile and industrial, that is just basically less water use because of COVID, right? I mean, there's nothing else going on there. There's nothing no billing or anything has changed or anything like that.
No, it's we're attributing it to COVID, and we have seen, particularly on the mercantile commercial side, that it is improving. And
Right.
with full capacity just agreed to by the governor last week for retail, we're hoping we're going to see some additional usage come in there. I think also as things shift, we're going to see some come away from domestic because people have been working from home. So we have a bunch of different shifts that could be happening, and we don't know exactly when. So that's why I said we're just really monitoring things, because it hasn't been a clear pattern. I mean, definitely mercantile for school was quite off. As I said, mercantile for commercial/retail has been off, but we've seen it improve. And we've seen the domestic numbers in part sort of buffer it, along with the meter, hydrant, and sprinkler charges to sort of give us a little offset and balance there. But, we definitely are off. If we were at the 71.2% of budget that we were at last year, we'd have about another $210,000 in revenues, just keeping all things even. We also didn't have the rate increase that we had been planning for last July. So, we are off, but all in all, things are coming in reasonably. We're hoping for the spring through the end of June to keep heading in the right direction as things are less restricted and things start settling out into our new normal. And we'll just keep an eye on how the numbers play out. And as I said, we've sort of targeted some expenditures that have flexibility to happen, by the end of the year. Even some we can just encumber if we're able to, seeing where our revenues land. But expense wise, we do have some leeway as far as keeping it in line with with the revenues for this year. And then, we'll expect as we get into the next year to see things settle out into the new normal, as folks are saying.
Okay, thanks.
I do have a quick question, and
Sure.
maybe we want to talk about that and add that to the agenda for a future meeting. But I just, for some reason, just now that dawned on me that we have the revenue numbers, and we know that there's an uncertainty because of the 3 billing cycles, right? So there's some unknowns there that are making this hard to interpret. But last year in summer, we made a pretty solid claim that due to COVID, the water usage in homes went up, right? And I don't really recall seeing the account 4100 to go up that drastically over budget that would actually kind of support that claim. So, I mean, you just talked about the shifts there, Michelle, and maybe we can reconstruct that because of that stupid 3-stage that rolling billing cycle.
Mhm.
But I almost would like to go back and really see if that's really true, because either something has to be wrong with the billing or with our metering if the two don't follow each other. And I'm almost tempted to ask that we add that as a KPI to our reporting. Does the billing follow the metering on an account level scale?
Well, I know the domestic probably didn't, I mean, it should have went up because people were home using water more, but we also stopped irrigating for a month. So that would have drastically brought the usage down. So I don't know if it all just kind of all added up together in the end at this number, but I know what you're saying.
Well, no, we could definitely, for March and ongoing, we can do some analysis on how the domestic piece played out through this year and just what the factors were. And we do a verification against a billing verification every month to ensure that we're capturing, everyone who should be billed. We check high-low readings and a variety of other factors that could impact the bills. But I'm happy to give it some more scrutiny, and we can put something together so that we can discuss it further for March.
Well, and I'm not sure if I ask you to go back, but I kind of would like to be able to see in the future some kind of correlation between billing and meter readings. So, so that we have that feeling that, that what we claim in statements is actually true, right? I mean, we had the peak usage in water, and granted that was due to irrigation, and maybe it was just a very short, very high peak, right, until we put the water ban in place. And if we level that out over those 3 months, we might be back to where we should be from an average standpoint. But when I see 2 million versus 1 point, when I see a almost $600,000 loss in revenues, that means our consumption needs to be 30% less than we expect it to be, and I would kind of like to see that somewhere. Otherwise, we haven't indicated that something's wrong.
We also need do like 19 as well, get some more years in there, because I think what you're looking at, we may not have so yes, the domestic usage is up, or could be slightly up, but you actually need to look at like 19 to see that, because we're not into that high demand time yet. We don't have the same months comparison, I guess.
So just to clarify, we're not $579,000 behind last year. That's just what's left in the budget this year, right?
Correct.
Right.
That's not saying it's not saying we're 579,000 off budget. That's saying we have that much more to go by the end of the year to meet budget. So we're under budget by that much, but we are at 68.6% of budget, and we're 66.67 through the year. Now,
True,
not
and
all months,
that's what's always, Yeah, that's what's always been bothering me, that we don't have a budget to date column. I keep stumbling over that. I'm used to have a budget, a year-to-date budget column that allows you to better compare your actual with your budget. Making a year-to-date actual versus an end-of-year budget comparison is always tricky.
So if you look a few pages ahead on that line item where it's a previous loss comparison to last fiscal year, we're basically only 4.9% higher than we were last year at this time, correct?
But part of what I was saying there is the budget for this year. Last year, our revenues overall were at 71.2% of last year's budget. If we were at that same percentage overall of budget, we would have, that's why I said we'd have an additional about $210,000. But now, Wolf, as far as the metering, what are you saying there when you're wanting to tie the metering? Are you wanting to tie back totals for, just tie it into
Well,
water?
we build dollars per gallon, right? So you would expect that there's a pretty tight correlation between what we meter and produce in water for the different types of accounts that we have, and the revenues that we achieve with that water that was sold and consumed. So I would expect those numbers to follow each other within a certain, error. So if you would draft them out, you would think that you would see a somewhat mirrored curve between the two, or one curve mimicking the other one. So, and I know that's hard because of our billing practices with the 3 months billing cycle that's rolling through town month by month. So there's some delays that are happening on the billing end that I'm mucking up the reading here, or the interpretation of the data. But it just seems that, considering that we keep saying that everybody's at home, working from home due to COVID, you would expect that our domestic water sales should be ahead of the budget, because we didn't really plan for that shift, right? And you would expect mercantile and industrial probably to be low because people aren't going to their workplace, right? And I'm not sure if I see that right now in those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, water sales, you're at 68.6, and theoretically right now, we should be at 67% because we're 2/3 of the way through the season.
Our revenues don't follow.
They're not even.
Yeah, they're not even. Like last year, we were at 69% of the budget. But we can do some prior year comparison. We can, are you wanting us to take water pumped and pull away the numbers that aren't unbillable from that to see the correlation? Is that what you're talking, Wolf?
I think I would ask staff to maybe talk about that and maybe come back in the next meeting, and tell us, this doesn't make sense because of this and that reason, or this kind of does make sense and this is how we can do it.
Okay.
It sounds like, Wolf, what you were asking is what we're actually reading and billing. Do I have that?
Right.
Okay.
There should be a correlation between the two. And in theory, if we would be metering every customer and billing every customer monthly, all the time, every month, those two should follow along. Those two should follow each other very tightly, right? Because we produce and sell this much water, that many gallons to private households, and we're billing them the same month or maybe a month later, I don't know. So maybe there should be maybe a 1 month offset between the two numbers, but in general, the two should follow each other quite closely.
Well, we actually have, where we have the staggered cycles, it does make it more difficult to
Sure.
to look at 1 month, but that's in part, that's where we do the accrual, which is based on the history, but we've
Right.
also been, for this year especially, we've been adjusting down our revenues for the COVID impact, kind of looking at the last couple of cycles. And really, sometimes it has been making our best guess because the numbers have jumped around. But we've been trying to do an adjustment down to be conservative on the accrual. And I'd rather see the actual come in and be a pleasant surprise versus kind of not tentatively making that adjustment when there's so much unknown. But we can definitely.
I just bring it up because, normally there's logic in these numbers. And if that logic isn't there, if it's not visible, then there's a reason for it. And that reason may be innocent or that reason may not be innocent. And, if you have these correlations, you should be able to gain confidence in those numbers. Not that I don't have them, but right now I'm not seeing that strong shift to domestic sales that I would expect, considering especially that Merrimack is a sleeper town, right? Where everybody, where most people go to sleep but not work. You would expect that shift to be pretty drastic because people are now not commuting to work as much and consuming water at home. And we have been stating that, and I would hate to be proven wrong by somebody that's scrutinizing those numbers a little bit more detailed.
They're just drinking beer, Wolf.
What's that?
I think they're just drinking beer, right?
There have been some studies on that this year.
Well, I also think we're going into probably May, June, where irrigation would be coming back online again. So maybe we'll get back some of that. And I think because we went a month last year with no irrigation, or last summer, I think that put us in a deficit that we're coming back out of. So we'll see where it all shakes out. But
We'll do some scrutiny of that, and we can talk in more depth next month, and we can put together some reports that will just give us a demonstration, an indication of where things have gone throughout the last year with the domestic water usage. And we can take it from there.
all right, any other questions on revenues and expenditures? Seeing none, you can move on to bank account summary. Anybody have questions on that at all? Okay.
All right.
Then you want to just get into this engineering service request that you want to take out of the budget and move into a different category?
Yes. It had been voted to pay for ESR 54, which would be the master plan piece related to all our source options. It was originally $33,000. There had also been a decision made by the board to take 16.9, which would be the master plan piece from ESR 50, which I emailed everyone today. I didn't realize that you hadn't received the amendments on the ESRs. So the total would be 49.9. Underwood is going to be getting us the amended paperwork, but the board had previously reviewed ESR 50, removing task 3 at 16,900 to combine with task 3. I'm sorry, to combine with the master plan work on new sources for ESR 54. So what we're wanting to propose is that the board approve paying for these funds out of the new well/source development funds versus budget. There's ample funds there, and we are working to spend them down in light of the repurposing that was done and some delays that have happened with those funds. Ideally, we're hoping even by this year end to possibly expend everything in the account. But we wanted to see if we wanted to move the payment for this ESR to the new well / source development funds. That was the bond proceeds that were repurposed originally for rehab of Mill 6.
Any questions on that? We need a motion for that?
As they normally would vote for funding.
Well, the thing is with this, it was already, the 16,900 was already approved on the previous ESR. Just when the board asked Underwood to expand the master plan to include Mitchell Woods, artificial recharge, wells 4 and 5, and the Manchester Waterworks connection, that small piece just moved over to combine with this one. So the funds have already been approved. They were approved with the previous ESR. They're just kind of lining up this so that all the tasks are for the master plan are in one ESR now.
But also the change would be that rather than pay out of budget, you'd use the new well / source development funds. And it would be, earlier, I didn't have the exact number, but it would be a little over $37,000 would come out of what you're seeing in the engineering budget line on these financials.
All right, well, that sounds straightforward. Again, I don't know if you're asking us if we need officially a motion to approve the change in the funding source, or
Yes.
if you can just do that.
No, we would need the
Okay,
vote to officially approve.
So moved.
who's that, Wolf?
So moved. I'm
Okay.
moving that, how do we word that? I'm moving, where's the ESR numbers? Here.
54.
Yeah, it would be ESR 54, which amended total would be 49.9.
And this replaces a prior ESR or combines it into a new one, or?
It takes a task from the previous ESR that was a smaller scope of the master plan. And when the board asked that Underwood to expand that to include Mitchell Woods, artificial recharge, all those things, they had to come up with a new ESR. So they just took that beginning piece that they were going to start on this other ESR and slid it over. So all the master plan
Right.
is in one ESR.
And that was number 50, right?
50,
Is the 16.9. That's the portion that's moved over to ESR 54's 33,000 with an amended total of 49.9.
Okay, so the motion is to move forward with ESR 54, which includes a previously approved scope under ESR 50, right? And
Yes.
moves the funds in the amount of how much?
49.9 would be the total. 16.9 is what's coming over
Right.
from ESR
Right.
50.
Right, so it moves the remaining funds of whatever the difference between the two is. Right?
It would be bringing the whole 16.9 over to ESR 54, making that amended new total 49.9. And then
Right.
we're saying, let's pay that out of new well / source development funds. So that would basically, from that account, we would reimburse the operating account and it would be removed from the being reported as a budget expense for this
And
year.
that's my motion.
Very well said, Wolf. All right, motion
to
by
delegate.
Wolf. Did we get a second on that? Was that John? Were you seconding that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? If not, we can do a roll call vote, and I'll start with Wolf.
So moved? Yes, in favor.
Wolf in the affirmative. John?
I am in the affirmative as well.
Okay, Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
But I,
Oh,
and myself, I'm in favor as well. Don Preventure, so that carries 5-0-0. Paul's got a visitor. Awesome. Okay, thanks. I think that was all. I don't know if you have anything else, Michelle, or does that do it for you, I believe?
Just one thing to note, I know that on the action items, Wolf and I have had the IT policy, which I actually wasn't aware of, but did notice that that was listed there. And I do have a draft of an IT policy that I would like to forward to Wolf and have us plan on the April regular board meeting, taking the first look at that draft policy for.
You're saying that has been forwarded to me already?
No, I will forward it. I
okay.
do have, I have it. I wanted to have
Right.
Ron take a look at it and then I'd send it out to you this week, hopefully. And
Mhm.
then get your feedback, any edits, additions, et cetera, and be able to have the board take its first look at the policy for April. It takes at least 2 sessions to create the policy. So we'd like to get it done by the end of the year if possible. I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Sounds good. Thanks for all your involvement on that.
Sure.
All right,
And that's all on my end.
thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can move into the regular session, and that's going to be with Jamie Emery and Garrett.
Good evening.
You
How
doing,
is
Jamie?
everybody tonight? I am going to make a couple things just rather quickly, but I thought there would be an opportunity tonight just to talk a little bit about the possibility for brownfields consideration on the MVD 6 site. And we've talked before a little bit about the MVD 6 is a well that you currently own. It's not being utilized currently because of concerns of 1,4-dioxane, PFAS, chloride, and other items. But it is a site that is has a high capacity. So the well at one point was producing about 1,200 gallons a minute, 1,500 gallons a minute. And Merrimack Metals was deemed the source of contamination for the 1,4-dioxane and other contaminants. And so it seems to me that we ought to start thinking about getting the state involved and applying for some grants from the state to do some remediation. Brownfield grants are intended to provide financial assistance to investigate and remediate a contaminated property. It does provide liability protection for future owners. And right now that property is an orphan property. It is not, I don't think it's owned by anybody. The owners went bankrupt and I think the owner passed away. The state has $50,000 in an escrow account allocated for that particular project. The brownfields can be used to remediate contamination at a given site, but it requires agreement from the town that they would like this work to be performed. So it would require a joint, really, the MVD board to send a letter to the town saying we would like to pursue some brownfields grant money to begin to investigate and clean up that particular site. It requires a conceptual plan for the reuse of the property. So the town would be say, you know, if we get this property back, we would like to use it for X, Y, Z purposes. And I think MVD could contribute to that end. And it would require a work scope from a firm to investigate and remediate the property. So we had sent in October of last year, if you recall, a draft letter that could be considered by this board to be sent to the town to consider it. I think it could be dressed and cleaned up a little bit. But with the opportunities that we have and the knowledge that at some point, maybe not in yours or my lifetime, that MVD 6 might be a source of supply that could provide something liquid to the MVD that could be usable. That's going to take a number of years anyways to clean up and remediate that particular site. And so I just wanted to plant the seed again that well 6 has value in my view to the district, and that, but it doesn't have much value until the time. I mean, you could pump, we still believe you could pump 400 or 500 gallons a minute out of that well, but it does have elevated PFAS, it's elevated chlorides. That it would be something that we should start thinking about, getting it back on track. So with your permission, what I would do is revise this letter, send it to the commissioners for review, to consider to be sent to the selectmen for consideration of applying for brownfields funding.
So what would that funding be for? Just continued study on this thing or something?
It would ultimately try to get a purpose for that property established, a future purpose, and it would start the process of determining what's on that property as it exists now, and what can we do, what could the state do or any consultant do to clean that up. Because it got dropped. I mean, there was a pump and treat system out there for a long time. That got dropped because they ran out of money, and the owner went bankrupt and they couldn't collect anything. And it was a very not a friendly environment between the owner and the state and the town and the MVD, and it was a difficult situation. So I just think it's worthy of at least consideration, especially if there's some open grant money available in the Brownfields program. This is in my view, is probably a classic case of a brownfield opportunity. Hazardous site, has influenced and adversely impaired a drinking water supply. It's orphaned. It needs a new purpose.
And this is not costing us anything to do this. This is just a letter and having the town involved and just to go for the grant, basically.
I write the letter I've already drafted up the letter for free. I'd modify it for free and I'd send it to you and you guys can consider it.
Okay. I don't think we have a copy of the letter, so as long as, we can see that, I think I'm personally okay with all this. I don't know if you need a vote to move forward on this or not, or
I don't think so, Don. I think once we can, Jamie can, rework the letter. Once we get it out to the board, then the board can say, yes or no on getting it out to the town. I don't think it has to be, there's no motion that needs to be done today.
okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think it's a generous offer by Jamie and we should take him up on it.
Yep, good point.
Will do. All right. Thank you, John. If I can share my screen, can you guys let me share my screen?
You should be all set, Jamie.
Okay. You see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So the next task for me was to talk a little bit about the wellhead protection areas selected for wells 4 and 5. And there was some discussion a while ago, I believe, that indicated that there was concern that the zone of or the wellhead protection that's identified for 4 and 5 currently is less conservative than a zone of capture that was presented back in the 80s. And I just want to discuss, and I'm going to take only 3 minutes on this. This is the 4 and 5 site, the Merrimack River and so forth. And these are the monitoring wells. Back in 2003, we did a very detailed study that was commissioned by the district to do a pumping test to assess the sustainable yield of those wells. And if you recall, back between 1997 and 2001, about 600,000 gallons a day were on average being pumped from that system. That's what we evaluated. But we did a pump test on the pre-existing permit, which was 216 gallons a minute for well 4 and 660 gallons a minute for well 5. I think I got those wells correct. For a total of 1.26 million gallons a day. And that pumping test went for an extended period of time. I think it was 5 days or 6 days. And it was clear that the sustainable yield of that well field was not 1.26 million gallons a day, but more closely to 600,000 gallons a day. And that's the discussion we've been having about whether artificial recharge is worthy of being held on. We came to the conclusion that drilling another production well in 4 and 5 was not reasonable. There would be no gain there. And that the MVD should continue its work efforts to educate all the landowners in the swamp, in the source water protection area. Now, what do? I just want to share with you, this is a cross section that we have developed on 4 and 5. It goes south to north, and this is south to north. And you can see that the sediment, this is bedrock surface, so the thickness of the overburden material gets thicker as you move towards St. Cobain to the north. You go cross section B to B prime. You see that we're up on the bedrock over here on the western side, and we're coming down in these materials. The point being is that where 7 is where well 5 is, or well 4 is, excuse me, and where 6 is about where 5 is. So we've got this coarse deposit runs through here. It's limited in its capacity. We went through a detailed assessment. So this is the pump test, 6 days. You can see that when we pump the well at 660 gallons a minute, well number 5, we never saw any stabilization. So this water level just kept dropping down, as you can see, all right? And then this, with 4, you can see it pumping even at 216 gallons a minute, the water level is continually dropping down. We basically took all the data for all the monitoring wells, including the production wells, and we're able to identify this particular zone of capture. Now, this zone of capture is really a pretty conservative zone of capture. And I wanted particularly Don to see this because this is based on 1.26 million gallons a day of, even though we know that we can't get 1.26 million gallons a day. But it is a conservative estimate, and it's extrapolating all the impacts we saw on all the monitoring wells that were identified. There's some others here as well, as part of that 6-day pumping test. When you identify it relative to the other subdivisions in this region, it is one that we were starting to get concerned about impervious cover. But I just wanted to tell you that this zone of contribution, this wellhead protection area, is based on real data, real pump test information, and at a rate that is not achievable at this time. The one that somehow has been locked in, and there's been some copies made in the district that shows a larger wellhead protection, was something that was done in the 80s without any pump test data. So I just want to confirm with you guys that this is the one to be using. This wellhead protection area that was identified in 2003 is the most accurate and is the one that the state uses as their wellhead protection area based on the data we collected. And I don't know if there's any questions. That's a lot of information in just a 2-second version, but essentially, I think any map that you have out there that shows a wellhead protection that's larger than that should be discarded, because this one is the one that really has the scientific data to support it. Any other thoughts?
No, that's something I was just looking for, to, like I said, to make sure we had the right information used and whatnot. So that's helpful.
Okay. And the last thing I was asked to talk about is this property that's come up available for further investigation on another source. This is a parcel that we investigated a number of years ago, I think in 2008. We drilled a couple of test borings, and the test borings were fair to moderate, but not enough that we wanted to pursue. This property here, 4B 111.1 and 4B 127, are two parcels that landowners come to Ron and said, we're interested in allowing you to investigate. Apparently they have a big well on 4B 127. We're kind of interested in this parcel as well. This is, if I look at the one we drilled on, it's down here, but this parcel is, adjacent to the landowner. But if we were to look for another source of supply, this parcel in our view is very favorable, or moderately favorable rather. This parcel is also. And it would be worthy of combining these two pieces and this piece and look at them together as a potential new source of supply. It is on the Sahegan River, which has some additional restrictions that will be addressed in the permitting if we were able to find another source. But it's something that, I think is worthy of at least thinking about down the road, especially if the landowners are coming to us and saying,
Jamie?
Yep.
I'm sorry, if I may, I had an email conversation going back with the owners of the property. And at this time, they do own both 69 Wilson Hill and 70, but they were really looking at 69. They're not sure what they want to do yet at the 70, the 111-1 parcel. So probably at this time, it would be just the
northern.
Yeah, thank you. The northern piece. And if we can, while we're out there, we can actually do, like you had said, do some letters and possibly get onto that.
This one, right here.
113.
Right. 113. The 21 acres. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's back there. So, I'll leave this up to you guys to discuss. It's underlain by some stratified drift deposits. We think, to be honest with you, that you can see, well, it's difficult to see, but there's some ripples here, that this is a delta that's been formed that has some permeable deposits, this entire region in here to the north. So if we could get on that side, I would be interested in if they allow us to go and test this well and find out if it has any setbacks, it might be worthy of finding out what the opportunities are there. But I'm more
Who owns the parcel to the west there?
I don't know. Do you know, Ron?
I don't off the top of my, I'd have to look that up. I want to say that's, I think it's the Hazens, but I'm not sure.
I thought there was. Did I read somewhere that there's town land that's near there or something? Or not?
I don't know of any. But...
The town land is in the area that we did some testing. I don't believe the town owns anything on the other side of the river. So that first piece Jamie was talking about with it's got the outline off of Riverside. That is town land.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
So I can submit this to you. Just, you guys can have these slides for the future if you want. I'll send them over to Jill so you have them. But I think this is, a conversation that we can have down the road, depending on what we find out at well number 9, which I just want to give you a 2-second update on that. We started the development on well number 9 today. We actually set up on Friday. And the initial specific capacity is just off the charts. I mean, it's 300 gallons per minute per foot of drawdown. So that's just insanely favorable.
Wow.
Let's clean it up. But, when you start at, I typically start these production wells at 10, 20. I'm very happy with a 20 and a 30 to start a specific. That's when I say specific capacity, I'm talking about 300 gallons a minute per foot of drawdown. That's how transmissive the material is.
Mhm.
Um,
Jamie,
that's-
did you ever do like a town-wide, I think you had, like just a town-wide evaluation of where it
Yeah.
makes sense to look for wells and all that? How long ago was that done?
I want to say in the early 90s, maybe mid 90s,
Wow.
late 90s.
And were any of these sites around Wilson Hill identified? Probably that one that you already did some testing on, that
Yeah,
4B.
the area, yeah,
35.
this area, I believe this area is in one of our zones. I'd have to go back and look at it, but yeah, I think that's.
It was, Jamie, it was in one of the zones. I don't know how far up on this, to that 69 property, but it is in the zone, one of the zones.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much it from our end. We have not heard a word yet from the state on our report. I fully expected to hear by now, but I've checked in with them to see if they're, how they're coming along. I hope to have something in the next week, but I really honestly thought they would have gotten it back to us last week.
Right.
COVID has a way of slowing things down on the regulatory, not just here in New Hampshire, but in all the states we're working in.
Okay.
But that's all I have tonight. So I'm easy. Quick and easy. And no decisions. And no spending of money.
Any other questions for Jamie?
Well, Don, while Jamie's still here, is this something that the board would like him to put something together for a cost proposal for investigation on these, at least at one site, or at least or multiple sites? And we can go from there at a future meeting, or is the board?
Can I ask Jamie, just with regard to capacities, I mean, you were just talking about how great well 9 is looking so far. I'm just having a hard time putting that into comparison. Like, are we going to need more water? Like, I would say I am one who is all for finding water that doesn't have any PFAS in it, as opposed to treating the existing PFAS wells. So given the proximity of this, do we think that maybe this could be PFAS-free water like the Mitchell Woods one was?
Right. I think we'd be more inclined to find PFAS-free water at this site than anywhere else, like Mitchell would. So the one thing I want to caution everybody is that the well is likely to yield more than the aquifer. Now that sounds kind of crazy, but that's how it's probably going to end up in well 9, that the well will be much more capable of producing more water than the aquifer can produce over time. So that's the nature of, we just happen to have an incredibly transmissive deposit. But I think that this is worthy of at least, of pursuit, because the PFAS, if you find a PFAS clean water, you're talking about, obviously a lot less money in the long run. And this is an area that we haven't really developed any water supplies in the past. So it's kind of unique in that regard. So I can, if you want, in the next, we could take this in stages and do just a small investigation without doing geophysics yet. Do some geologic mapping and get out there on the site and lay out the deposits and see if there's worthy, if it's, you just get permission to walk the properties and lay out where we think the place would be to do some geophysical surveys and see if we can get permission from them. But I wouldn't, I don't want to go too hog wild yet, but I think it's, anytime a property owner is willing to work with the town, it can't go unnoticed, and it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be discarded.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested in doing some test borings there and just to see what we might have, and maybe a first step type of thing.
Okay. I'll put something together for the next budget and for the next board meeting then.
Hey, Ron, would we be able to feed water from a well there easily into this distribution system, or would we need to consider large investments on top of the well to be able to do so?
Yeah, there would be a mainline extension, definitely. It would, you're probably looking at the length of Wilson Hill Road. But it probably wouldn't be something, my understanding, I believe there is some other issues further up the road as far as some well issues, private wells. So if there was a decent site, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing for an expansion out in that area to pick up some customers, I guess, or for the existing residents there.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I'm asking, because it's quite a bit away yet from the Hutchinson tank, right? It's quite a bit away from any other tank. So,
we do
developing
have,
the well is one thing, buying the property another. But if we have to spend, big bucks to bring the water to the system, we haven't gained much.
right. I mean, there would definitely be some expense there. It would have to. It would definitely be the length of Wilson Hill Road, because the next connection would be Old Blood and Meeting House, not Meeting House.
Mary Meeting.
Mary Meeting. I had it right the first time. McQuestion. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're probably maybe a mile away from tying in at McQuestion on Wilson Hill Road. So that would definitely be a cost concern there.
Yeah.
But this isn't a high pressure zone, so we could tie right into the high pressure zone, which would be a good thing as well.
If it didn't have any PFAS, you might be saving $8 million right there.
Yeah, again, I think, just doing a initial test boring program is something I'd like to look at. I wouldn't want to get further than that I'd like to get if that seems like we want to move forward, I'd like to do some kind of a PNS or something on the property before we get too far involved. Because if we go out there and start testing the property and it looks more favorable, then the value of the property is going to go up. So I'm a little hesitant on going too far without having that, agreement on that first.
And I was actually just thinking, before we even do any test borings, is just to take a look at the geology a little bit. Like what Wolf just said, take a look at the distance to the system. What are the potential for new customers? What do we think there's even a chance? I mean, I'm not talking about a lot of money, just to get a sense as to whether we want to pursue this at all. And then if we do, then, I think you're right, get a PNS agreement and go into to drill some test borings. But I'm
That
thinking,
would be a concern for me too, if we keep talking about it, the price is gonna up meeting by meeting. So we gotta watch that a little bit too.
Right. What kind of numbers are you thinking about here, Jamie, on a first cut?
$5,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I'd like to know. If it looks great at that point, then we can talk about entering a PNS with the landowner first and then doing the rest of it from there, I think.
I'll throw something together and have it ready for you for the next meeting for you to consider. Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. Very good. Well, I'll let you go on. I know you got a lot on your agenda tonight.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Sharon, hold on.
Do you have
Let
to
me
turn this? Yeah.
Sharon, I don't want to close this thing down again.
I don't think.
No, I made him a co-host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
I don't think we have those concerns again anymore, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
All set.
I can just leave now, right? Yep. Okay.
I think
You're all
so.
set.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Jamie.
All right, great. So now we're at the next topic, which is Board of Commissioners to hear project updates from Underwood engineers. Hey, Keith. Hey, Pete.
Hi, guys. I'll go first, and I just had shared a status report for you that was requested at our last meeting. This status report captures all the active projects that we have ongoing identifies our job numbers and your PO and the name of the projects, and in a very high level, what the contract balance is, and current status and pending actions. And so hopefully it's what you were looking for. We can plan on updating this periodically and getting it to you. And I wasn't necessarily going to go through it line by line. Hopefully you had it for a few days. Unless you want me to, I can. But I was just more interested to see if you had any questions on it and if it captured the things that you were hoping to get out of it. Would you like me to go through it or just see if there's any questions?
I'd kind of like you to go through it. I don't know if anyone else thinks that as well. Just real quick, maybe.
Sure. Okay, well, it's a 4-page status report, and the first project that we have ongoing with you is the water audit and conservation rates. And we did issue a tech memo in March, and prior to that, we had a work session with you. We just issued the tech memo a week or two ago. And prior to that, we had a work session with you. And at that meeting, at that work session, it was agreed that we wanted to deal with the conservation rates maybe at a little bit less of a busy time. So we had put down in our notes to target some spring, summer. So I presume that's still the case. That's why I put that as a pending action. And the other part of that was the water audit. And we did do the water audit. We presented that to you and found that through some just you were talking about it earlier, Wolf, with Michelle on the quarterly metering. It does create some challenges, and so we used some. We redid some of those calculations and did an update on some of the non-metered authorized water uses, and found that we don't see those summer spikes like we did, which I suspected when we went into that was due to more of an accounting. So we issued that memo. That was the memo we issued in March, and suggested that we can probably, from a summer perspective point of view, put that to bed and just focus on overall water losses, and non-revenue and unaccounted for water on a global scale, and not necessarily specifically in the summer.
Any questions on that item for Keith?
The master plan supplement was the next one on there. We did do a presentation to you in December. We're still working on finalizing the report. Interestingly enough, I was just listening to Jamie on the Wilson Hill Road potential well site. That's exactly why we're doing the master plan in terms of cost effectiveness. And I could probably maybe get a little information from him, and at least from our first cut, as we finalize this first draft, maybe include a little discussion on the Wilson Hill Road, just to sort of look at the infrastructure and, hey, if it's a mile worth of pipe and a potential new well, how does that compare to some of the other options? So, I guess luckily maybe we can still capture that, and I'd be willing to do that. We are targeting a draft report to you in April.
Okay. Keith, before we move on, back on the last one, you talked about targeting a spring, summer, to talk about conservation rates, a meeting. Is that something we should be scheduling now, or what?
What we should be scheduling, back when we met, we wanted to have a separate work session with you, the board,
Right,
or whoever wanted to be involved with it, so we could do a deeper dive into the findings and proposals. So I think that's what would need to be scheduled when you're ready.
Okay.
I'll see if I can quiet my dog down. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not bothering you, but all right, any other questions on that one?
Nope, I'm good. Anybody else?
Do you want me to leave it that you guys will target a date to schedule it, or should I work with Ron and Jill to schedule a work session come next month or two?
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to think we could pin that down sooner than later. At least we'll know it's coming at us.
I'll work with them to schedule something.
Maybe we can send out a.
I was gonna say a doodle poll or something we can.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Because I think we were talking about implementing that July 1st, right?
Yeah. Trying to get something going by then.
right? So I know it's a general rate increase, plus we're also talking about the conservation rate as well. So I think we need to pin those down, because I think our understanding last time we spoke is we were looking at trying to implement that for the next fiscal year, starting in July.
Yeah, and I think you were targeting it in hopes that it would help reduce, or a tool to help drop consumption potentially a little bit. And we may be, even if we implement in July, it may be that you're not going to see that, because people won't realize the impact as a result. And what we found is that you may not see that much of an impact in terms of drop consumption. It's just definitely more of a tool to help promote conservation. And we checked in with Exeter and Portsmouth, who have done it, and they said they saw maybe a few percentage points in consumption drop. They recalled it was minor enough that they didn't even really remember what it was. But so the original July date was, I think, was a hope to try to do something that would benefit you, but maybe it takes a little pressure off, knowing that if you do it in July or August or September, it's not going to probably make that much difference in terms of that.
Okay.
All right, so that's an action. We will schedule a work session as early as maybe April. All right, the next one we had is the corrosion control optimization. That's also a draft report that we're targeting to get to you in April. My staff has a meeting with MVD staff in 2 days to go over some of the details. That report will deal with both corrosion control and disinfection that we've been talking about. So nothing new on that, other than the target is to get you a draft in April.
All right. Any questions from anyone on that one?
Nope.
All right. Sounds good.
Water asset management plan, that is something that was driven by your SRF funding. It's a requirement. You did get a 50% grant. We were able to get you 50% grant for that. That's just a project that's ongoing and really will be done when the new assets are done. So that will be a supplement to your asset management information. So the final report isn't due till May of 2022. So we can continue to track that. That's what that one is. Uh, 2346 it's going back a little bit, but it was one that was still on our books. Had to do with short-term cost improvements at wells number 7 and 8 that got cut off. That project ended up got put on hold when 7 and 8 design started going forward because of PFAS. So they kind of all happened at the same time. We're shutting our books down on that one. That project is getting it's done because of 7 and 8. So I'm just making a note that we're closing that, and that balance will be returned. And I think Merrimack's already closed the books on that one as well. So there's nothing there. 2511 residential apartments, 360 DW Highway. Occasionally we do planning design reviews for you where it relates to a significant water line extension. This was one that was quite significant. We issued a memo back in January. It's been on our books. We checked with the district at this point, and I think there's no other action needed. So we're going to close our books on that one so that escrow can be returned. There's a small balance left in that review. The next ones deal with the treatment plants 4 and 5, 7 and 8. Peter's here as well. He's going to go through 7 and 8, so I may skip that one. But 4 and 5, there's really some of the outstanding things for us is just dealing with any outstanding punch list items, and we owe you O&M and record drawings, which are ongoing as well.
I did want to mention something just because it has XDD in here about the column tests and stuff we were looking at for zeolite. I'm wondering, did we ever do column tests on anion resin, particularly at wells 4 and 5? When you and I spoke, I don't know, a week or two ago, you said that we already hit the 50% breakthrough point in the sample port at the lead well, the lead filter at wells 4 and 5. I'm just wondering, and I know that's PFBA, right? So I'm just wondering, have we ever tested any columns with anion resin to see if that does better removing PFBA, then carbon?
Peter, do you remember? I thought there was some potential desktop work. that
Yeah,
we-
I think we did. I think the chloride levels are too high for the resins.
Yeah.
So that's why they really don't match up.
Yeah,
The XDD report, we did, follow up on your request and did get a proposal from them. And I think it would be a good thing to do. Really what XDD is proposing to do for their $3,500 is establish the protocols and the sampling plans for setting up columns and a mechanism for testing various medias. And we had asked them to set up the protocols and sort of lay out a design so your staff and Ron guys could build it and then just actually do it. So for $3,500, that's what they would do.
and that's for zeolite, right?
Well, it'd be for any media that you wanted to put into
Oh.
a column. Yeah. It wasn't intended to just be for the zeolite. We were trying to set
Okay,
it up so that you could run various medias. Other carbons too, if you wanted to try another carbon again.
so we have a proposal from XDD. I don't know that I remember seeing that, or if I did, I don't remember, but
I think it came in January to us, and I think we forwarded it, but we can make sure it gets.
I do have it. I've been meaning to get back to Mike Metcalf had emailed it to me, and I've been meaning to get back to him, but I can certainly circulate that around.
okay.
Any other questions on that one?
No, I'm good.
I want to skip 7 and 8 because
I'm
Peter's got. What's that? Okay, 7 and 8 I'll skip because Peter's going to speak to that. Wells 2, nothing really new there except that it's out to bid and there's a pre-bid scheduled tomorrow. And so if there's any other updates or questions on that, I'll let Peter speak to it. The SCADA and radio evaluation, that work's been done. The new equipment's been incorporated into the well number 2 bid. So that's been completed. And then the last thing is the Turkey Hill booster stations on this list. And it gives you the dates and the status of that project, but that station is up and running. And one of the important things to remember on that one is the 1-year warranty ends a year from February 23rd. So anything that comes up between now and then, presumably or hopefully it would be a warranty item. And we also owe you O&M and record drawings for that project as well. Before I turn it over to Peter for 7 and 8, I'll see if there's any other questions. I do want to note on the contract balance that's listed. These are represent what's left on our contract in terms of what's been billed. It doesn't incorporate work that we have in progress that we haven't billed you for. So I did it that way because it'll match up with your books. So if it needs to be checked, then you can, our balances should match based on what's been billed, but that oftentimes there's still work in progress that we would bill you for. So I wanted to make that point in case somebody had a question. And before I turn it over to Peter, I had one other point, and it's kind of following the heels a little bit of what Jamie was talking about pursuing brownfields, but we are paying attention to the recent COVID relief bill and some of the infrastructure monies that may be coming out of that. And if you remember, maybe back in April, we did it, but we sent out a list of projects that would be, I gotta get my dogs to stop wrestling. Hold on a second. I don't know if you can hear that, but geez. I'm home alone too. So we've been following the idea that potentially a infrastructure stimulus project may happen. And back in April of 2020, we put a few projects in for on Merrimack's behalf, just to sort of bolster New Hampshire's list of potential shovel-ready projects. And so I'm just planting that seed. I'd like to keep an eye on things because if some of these projects that either are ongoing or potentially in the near future, we want to position ourselves in Merrimack potentially to take advantage of some of those things. So I've got some feelers out now that bill has passed to see how the state sees things happening. But I wanted to just keep you aware of that, let you know we're looking at it. We should all sort of see what we can do to benefit Merrimack, so. So
Great.
unless there's any other questions, I'll just turn it over to Peter because he was going to update you on 7 and 8.
Sounds good.
That's
Thanks.
great. Thanks, Keith.
All right, thank you.
Right, so in your packet, you have a copy of change order number 4. And that change order includes some miscellaneous items and a time extension request. The vessels are scheduled to be delivered on June 7th. Initially, they were scheduled for June 2nd, or at least that's what I told you last time. But the timing of Memorial Day, which is May 31st this year, trucking, those 15-foot diameter vessels from Ohio over here probably wouldn't really happen during those holiday seasons. So that they're looking to ship those the day after Memorial Day, so June 2nd, and then they would be coming in and being set on the 7th. And so in the meantime, before the vessels are getting installed, the contractor is moving along with all other work that he can be doing that is not impacted by the vessels. So the well number 7 chem feed system, the new caustic feed system out there, that is virtually complete. We're waiting for a solenoid valve to be coming in to install on one of the lines, and then that will be done. Well number 8 has been cleaned. A new pump has been installed and a new VFD has been installed. They're proceeding on to do well number 7 cleaning, and then setting the new pump in there. The VFD is on site for that, so that'll get hooked up at the same time. So that's looking to be online at the end of the month or 1st of April. So both of those wells are going to be cleaned well before the high flow season's coming. So that worked out nicely. The contractor's also has his pipe supports in and looking to finish the piping inside the existing treatment plant before the vessels get there. So he's doing a nice job in the sense of scheduling all that work. So once the vessels get delivered, then he can concentrate on the work that he needs to do inside that vessel room. So once the vessels get there, then he's going to have to set up some temporary custom staging in there because he's going to have to work around those vessels, 15-foot vessels, and having some kind of supports over them, so he can get up there and work on the ceiling and stuff like that. And then once he pulls those down and then has done all the ceiling work, then he'll need to build the platform and stairs and then move on to the piping and then doing the electrical mechanical. So a lot of those things, because of the smaller room and when the staging's all set up, you can't do any other work in there. So the timing of the work is carrying it out. And back in January, I misspoke when I was talking about the contractor's schedule and that they would complete earlier than we're thinking now. And that's because I misunderstood what the contractor was saying about some of his work and how it could not be completed concurrently, had to be completed in series. So he's looking at right now for early November substantial completion date. And if some things go better, maybe it can get moved up. But right now, that's what he's thinking about. And the time extension really comes down to what we were talking about and trying to avoid with well 2. And it's the time between when we sign the contract and when the vessel gets delivered, and doing what we can to speed that up. And I think we have installed some measures into the well 2 project that we hope to do that with. So there, that's sort of a summary of the change order there.
So Peter, those 84 days change in contract time, are they like within the critical path? Are they extending the critical path by 84 days?
Because it's the vessel. So the 84 days, if you look at the breakdown on attachment B that I gave you, so there's some, there's 6 different items on there. So one of them has a 0 time extension. The other ones have, the top 4 have a 24-day, and then they're looking for a time extension of 60 days for the vessel delivery. So on that, like on that first one, the finish of the exterior gable wall. So that, once we pulled off the siding off of that, we were hoping that, we could, leave that existing, masonry wall. The pointing of the masonry wall was in, fairly poor shape, did not really look that good. It had a damp proofing on there that, you really couldn't paint over. So it would have taken more time to sort of fix that wall. So what we ended up doing is, we were planning on the bottom portion of it, putting a plywood wall over the existing foundation to kind of cover that up. That's put on, the plywood's put on some 2x4 furring strips. So we were going to extend that all the way up the wall. So, so again, trying to do that to cover up that wall, getting the staging to set up to do that work, it's, and working around all the other stuff in there. It just, so that added, 14 days to it. Then there's a few other ones for 3, 5, and 2 days for some additional work. The totals up to the 84.
That plywood, is that a permanent solution, or is there any wicking or rotting that could occur there?
Yeah, that's a permanent. It's going to be on the existing exterior wall, which is turning into the interior wall of the vessel room.
Okay. And how many of these 84 days are already, like those 14 days for item number 1, for example, for that plywood, that's already history, right? So
no, they have not done. They have not done that work yet. No,
they have not done that work.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there any chance that he can work some of this in parallel instead of sequentially by adding?
Yeah.
in
So
more
some of
resources?
that, so he's worried about some of that plywood being exposed in, into the elements. If he's doing that before the roof's put on and all that kind of stuff. So that's
Well,
where he gets in.
I'm talking overall. Is there any of these steps that he can work in parallel so we don't have 84 days, maybe only 50?
Yeah. So some of this stuff, it potentially could, but I think the total, looking at it, he could, if we could reduce, say we reduce that item 1 from 14 days to 10 days, we take 4 days off of it. He still needs a completion of around November 1st to finish it. So then we would, increase that 60 to 64, type of thing. So we kind of settled in on that 60 based on, okay, here are the, right, with all the other items, it carries it out to September 1st. Then he needs a couple more months to get to the November 1st. And that's how we came up with the 60 days. So he is actually doing a decent job, I would say. Well, actually a good job is, trying to get all, like I mentioned, all this work he's trying to get done, beforehand. He will try to, I believe he will try to do as much as he can concurrently as he's going along. But in that vessel room, it is it's a big room, and when you're looking at it in a house size, but once you drop in a couple vessels in there and people working off a ladder, it gets kind of tight, and you want to make sure you have a safe work environment in there.
I need to work more in the public sector. If I could, just like that, 2 more months project delivery.
Yeah, I think again, I think it comes back, to that thing that we were trying to avoid with well 2, and a lot of it came down to, the shop drawing process, and then just, Volk was, schedule of stuff. So I think the things that we talked about and are instilling in well 2, I think is going to help that.
Okay.
So that's, I don't know if you, so the other thing is, it kind of relates to that, as I gave you a change order summary, and it lists all the change orders that we've had up to date, and then plus this one. And as of right now, there has been no formal approval for change order budget. I didn't know if that was something that you're looking to do. So right, if you look at that change order summary, all of these items add up to about $56,000, just shy of 56.
And those have been being awarded okay, and I don't know that. Do we?
Yeah, change order number 2 and change order number 3 have been, awarded, but we didn't, what 4 is in, in the draft mode, and I just wanted to present that to you when we're looking to proceed with that for, finalizing before the end of the month. And then I just didn't know if you had a budget that, I know on 4-5, we had a budget of 100,000 that we had set up, for the work. Didn't know if you wanted to do anything for this project or not.
So those change orders, 1, 2, and 3, maybe I'm drawing a blank, but I don't recall that we, were consulted about that. Is that something that Ron approved together with you guys?
I approved them, Wolf. We're within the contingency, and that was what I was just going to ask Pete to mention. What are we running at contingency on this project, and how?
Yeah, because this one is sort of lumped in with the the well 2 project. That it's hard to determine what the contingency that you have is until we get the bid price for well 2. So that's the big thing, and we'll know that in a couple weeks once we open bids.
Well, I think originally this was broken down to be about $3.5 million, and that's kind of where we're at right now, right? Where the bids came in.
Yeah, bids came in at 3.5. Yeah. But I think
it's at the top of the page, 3.536.
Yep, correct.
Right.
So we're still within.
So the 3.5%, the 3.5
million
million included contingency in there, though, right? In the warrant articles. I think the way it broke down was 14.5 million between the 2 warrant articles, was 10.9 for wells 2 and 3, and 3.6.
I believe that the warrant articles also included engineering. Correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, but I thought it included engineering plus construction.
Mm.
So I think when we combined those 2 warrant articles, it gave us that flexibility, to if one was a little higher than the other one, we could kind of swing some funds.
So there really is no contingency here.
Again, it's hard to tell until we get the bid price for well 2, and and I don't know if you want to postpone it to next month, we can certainly do that, but we'll have certainly know what our contingency is at that point.
I mean, right now we're looking at 0.27% overrun, if I see that right?
0.27, is that what it?
Not even 0.3% overrun. So, I mean, and we're coming to a point where this has got to be complete, right? So, I'd be okay with. I'm not so excited, not so worried about the cost overruns, because they're reasonable for a project of that size. But again, 84 days is how much of the total schedule?
Yeah, so
That's 2 additional
Well,
months out of planned 7 months, right? So,
No, the contract was 365 days for substantial, so it's a full year for substantial. And then they gave him another, I believe, 45 days to final completion.
Peter, I heard you talking about the plywood and Memorial Day. What's the 60 days with nothing in there for money for?
It's because of because the vessels are coming in later than originally expected, and then the contractors having to do his work sort of, sequentially instead of combining tasks. They're going to be, all the tasks going to be one right after the other. So that, it's going to extend out. Hopefully he's going to be able to work with his subcontractors and do the work himself to speed that up, but that's what he's, anticipating.
So we don't really have any choices at this point. This is just what's going to happen, right? We don't really have anything that we can do about it.
That's the schedule that he's looking at right now, yeah. So.
Okay, well,
You
I
know.
mean, it is what it is, I guess. I don't think we have any. It doesn't sound like we have any repercussions here that would happen. So they pretty much hold all the cards, right?
No, you do, there are, liquidated damages in the contract, for, going over the contract. At this point, I think, some of his, claims for that, with, with the shop drawn review process took a little bit longer than what was anticipated. Some of the effects that he's had with Avoqua. We're still in a pandemic. He certainly could be claiming, pandemic issues. So, there are some, you do have liquidated damages in there that's written into every single contract. So if they do go over, I think they do have some reasonings for that. We're not recommending liquidated damages right now, but.
what always bothers me when we talk about this stuff is I just don't see anybody there on this team, on this contractor team, just to propose, well, we have this issue, but you know what, we can pull these two in parallel and at least, make the appearance of making an attempt of saving the timeline. This is just always being sequential. It's always hitting the critical path. The 60 days I can even kind of live with, because I hear what you're saying with the whole, approval drawings and so on. We had this discussion. I can eat that easier and accept that easier than all those 3 and 5 and 2 and 14 days. Because if I would throw a different team on those tasks, an additional team of workers, or sub it out to another contractor, you would think that some of the stuff can be done in parallel and not extend the issue, the timeline. I just never see that for any single one of these line items, and that tells me that nobody's even trying.
Yeah, so he is trying, and we have worked with them, and at the project meetings, we're constantly looking at, and we're talking to them about get everything that you can get done outside of the vessel room. So when the vessels come, that you're not saying, oh, well, the vessels are here, we got it all done, but oh, the VFD for well number 8's not in, or something else. So we're saying get everything that you can get done before the vessels get there, and then that way you can concentrate on the the vessel room and get the project completed as quick as possible. And he has been doing that, and that's what we concentrate on at the progress meetings and stuff like that. So, he was looking at doing the well cleanings and stuff. He had that scheduled for middle to end of April. And we go, no, push that up, try to get that done in March, because we've seen when, all of a sudden, somebody else has an emergency, Barry, goes out and takes care of the emergencies instead of doing maintenance work, which you would expect. You would hope that he would come take care of your emergency instead of doing maintenance for somebody else. So, we were pushing him to say, hey, get that in there, get that into the March timeframe. And he did do that. And so I think that's So I think he's putting in the effort on that side of it. And I believe he will have, pretty much everything done that he can, if he continues along the path that he's going.
I'll add to, because I was involved with some of the conversations when we were really trying to hammer out what the schedule was. And, we did have some tough conversations about why this is happening and what we could do. And the contractor is offering up some ideas and is trying to move things along. I mean, it does cost him money to add time to these projects too. And he actually did at one point ask for that. And we said, no, I mean, we can't, I don't think we can do that, especially if we're dealing with giving you the time. So he gave that up and let that one go. I think in favor of just trying to, show some goodwill as well. So I don't, I do want to relay that, we are having some tough conversations with him both ways. And he is doing what he can, I think. And that was one thing that he did do. He's stepped away from pushing on some cost things for the extra time.
Those dollar amounts, are they cost plus or are they, just arbitrary selected and quoted by him?
Well, we never got to the point where we would entertain them specifically, Wolf, but had they been discussed or entertained, they would have been fixed costs. He would have established and argued whatever it was he decided he needed to present to us, for whether it's a added, insurance requirements or just overhead costs because he's running a contract for 3 more months than he originally did. But we never got to that point. I mean, I think he gave us all.
I'm sorry, I may have not been clear. Those line items in the change order itself, the 11,281.50, the 5,370, those line items, are those cost plus? Do we have visibility on the actual cost, or is it possible that he has just decided to move those cost overruns due to the extension into those line items?
Oh, so each one of the line items, yeah, so he has a breakdown of each one of those costs that we looked at and reviewed.
But they're not cost plus.
They're fixed.
When I say cost plus in my world, that means he itemizes his cost and adds, whatever, 8% margin or something like that.
Oh, so he did mark those up per contract requirement, yeah.
He did or did not?
Did, yeah, there's in the contract it allows, so if he has a subcontractor working there, then he's allowed to mark it up, a certain percentage, yeah.
Right, but is she again, are these price lines, line items, prices for line items that he chose and presented to us in terms of a quote, or are these line items that are substantiated by his cost plus an agreed upon margin? Cost plus.
Yeah, I'm not 100% understanding exactly what you're asking, but yeah, these are items that we identified as things that needed to be completed, and then he gave us a quote depending on if the item was his work. He could estimate what his work was, and then if he had to get a subcontractor to get a subcontractor, then based on both of those in the contract is a stipulated percentage that he's allowed to mark things up. Yeah. Does that answer it?
Almost, but almost. I think we can move on. But cost plus for me is cost plus is a term that I see all the time, and it literally means that the contractor has to produce the quotes that he receives from his sub-suppliers and his subcontractors, and that's what he's gonna. And he actually has to produce the invoices eventually too. And then he gets an agreed upon markup on top of it, right? So, yeah. and the opposite of that is that he says it's going to cost you $5,730.50 to receive and for us to install caustic tank side classes, and it's just basically a quote that may have line items in it, but they're not substantiated by quotes that he receives from his suppliers and contractors. They're numbers that he chooses as a sale price, even if it's
well. We do receive his quotes when it's applicable. The this is not exactly cost plus, because I think as you describe it, the actual cost is tabulated after the fact and the plus is added and it is what it is. You know what it's roughly going to be, but the difference here is these are numbers we've all agreed to. If he goes over, it's his. If it's under, you know, he's taking, we're all taking a little bit of risk, but the way we do the change orders in these projects, they're fixed. And there is due diligence during the preparation of these. The quotes are provided, the estimates are provided. I do know Joel usually is the first one to receive them, and he usually pushes back if he thinks it doesn't make sense. So there is a back and forth before you even see it. And usually by the time you see it, Peter and Joel and the contractor have done that work, and we're all comfortable recommending it. Peter wouldn't bring it forward to you if that hadn't been done. But this is a fixed number once it's signed.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well, Keith. You know, there is some back and forth. If we're not comfortable with the numbers that have come in, we kick it back to the contractor to sharpen the pencil or provide more information on how we came up with these numbers, and then we ultimately will agree on a number.
Right.
All right, so are you looking for an approval from us on this change order number 4 or not?
Yeah, I guess I wanted, so one, I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and because the contract time was, or the completion date was extended out further than what I mentioned before. I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, as soon as possible. And then, I know Ron has been approving change orders, moving along. So I don't know if, and I guess it's sort of a question of how you want to do it internally, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of this. That's what the time extension was going to be, moving forward.
I mean, I would prefer not to give a board approved contingency, just because that seems like you're giving permission to go ahead and spend that money.
Yeah, no, this was, what I was noting for that is sort of an internal one between, yourself and us, just, I know on the 4-5, you said, okay, Ron, you have, change order, you can approve change orders up to X number of dollars. Obviously you review them and all that kind of stuff, but you can approve up that. And then if it goes over that, then we want to know,
Yeah.
That's what you did on the last one. And so there wasn't anything done on this one. I didn't know if you wanted to do that or not, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that nothing has been voted on and it was on the last one. So I just wanted to point that out in case you wanted to follow the same procedure or not.
Yeah, because this is inconsistent with the last time, Wells 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I don't know, what does the board feel? Is there a desire to approve a cap on the contingency amount? Or do we give Ron authority to approve change orders without a cap on it, or?
With 4-5, we always had a dollar amount that Ron was able to approve. And we just kept, as he expired or that expired, we would keep expanding that. And I think in the end, we had a very reasonable amount of change orders in dollars. The time frame, right, we obviously weren't happy with. And quite honestly, I'm really not happy that, this is again, an over 20% overrun, right? 365 days plus 84 days. That's a third of the schedule almost, right? And that's just really, really bothering me. We make
it's about a 25% increase, because he had 12 months to do it, and then between this change order and the last one, which had 6 days on it, he's adding 3 months to it. So it's a 25% increase in time. Yes.
Yeah, and it's something that in the private sector, I'm just not seeing. That just goes unpunished, right? And it just tells me that our contract language is something is still, and maybe we're gonna see it better in the Wells 2-3 project, because we made that change. But it's just, for me, very, very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
It's we're we're gonna have that water now filtered in a time frame that we just committed different
Yeah.
to our. So,
Yeah, so I think between when we decided, we were talking about what we're gonna do about well 2 project, between then and now, there was really nothing we could save with 7 and 8, sort of and I think you mentioned this before is, when you get near the end and you're having a problem with schedule, it's really probably nothing that you did in the last month or 2. It's what you did at the beginning of the project and at the, maybe the first third of the project. And I think that, that statement is fairly true. And I think that that's probably representative of what happened with this one. So there's, so in the last 3 months, there's really, I don't think there's been any more damage done than what there was done before in terms of schedule.
All right, so do we want to just leave this blank and Ron can just report to us as time goes on about what the change orders are?
And I can certainly give you an update. This update is fairly easy to do, and I know Wolf has asked for it before, and we have provided it with the 4-5 project, and we can continually do that every meeting if you want, just so you're up to date.
well, I would assume, at least with 4 and 5, we had an board approved contingency, which we don't have here right now, but we have approved change orders. So it's almost, we at least should approve those change orders now and relieve Ron, I would think, or put a contingency cap in place now. So right now it seems that we're not following the process we did with 4 and 5.
Right.
So, and again, monetary wise, I'd be okay with even granting some room there yet for small change orders, so we don't have to delay any of these decisions for a board meeting.
So what I want to do, put a cap on what, maybe say 75,000 then? We're up to 55,778 now.
Yeah.
That might be a tad tight. I don't know, just 20,000, you certainly could do that, and come back. I don't know if that.
Well, right now we have 55 out there that haven't even been board reviewed. So.
Right.
Board approved on the, on the
Board
dollar
approved.
value, correct, yeah. Yep.
I would think, Wolf, 75,000 is a good start. I mean, as long as it's something we have access to you on a monthly basis, that gives Ron the flexibility in between, but 75 would certainly cover this change order, it looks like, and then give us a little bit of room, and knowing we have access to this board at least once a month, if it had to be adjusted, I think that's a good start point.
Yeah, so that would give you basically another $20,000 or $19,000 for something that comes in over the next month.
Yeah, and you guys, we can see you next month if we had to on it.
All right.
I think it was your number, Don. You suggest 75, but I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, I just figured I'd throw some number out there to move this along. All right. Was that everything that you guys needed to cover, or what else do we got on? Anything more?
No.
Okay. Well, before Underwood leaves, I just figured maybe we could go ahead to the action items, because there's a number of action items that Underwood has involved. And I think they're numbers 17, 19, 24, 30, 32, and 32 to 34. So let's just try to go through those now and see if there's anything that we can cross off. So let's see, what was the first one? Action item number 17, Underwood to investigate contracts to aid MVD with stronger language. Is that something we covered already in the last RFP, right? For well 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
completed for now. We'll see what happens with well 2.
So we could probably mark that as complete now.
Agreed.
So Amanda, if you're following that, number 17 can actually cross off the list. That's good. Number 19, Underwood to follow up with Jamie to graph the water quality, PFOA, PFOS, Manchester Waterworks. I think you guys are, I don't know if there's anything really with Underwood left to do on that.
As I recall, they were going to do it. Maybe it was to help us remind them to do it, but
Right.
I'd have to check in with them if you wanted me to.
I don't think you need to do that. I think that's something that we can handle, right?
Okay.
I know it's under Ron's.
Yeah, and
Assigned to Ron, but
yes, I can handle that. And I actually I had reached out to you, Keith, a while back, and I didn't know if I was actually going to follow up with you to see if you would we're working on that, but thank you. I can actually follow up with Jamie on that now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have some of it in the water supply study report options, but the trending, I think they've done some. But if I need to do something after talking to Jamie, Ron, let me know. We'll take care of it too.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is more of like an ongoing thing to keep updating those graphs, maybe quarterly or something. And I don't know that Underwood needs to be involved if Jamie is doing the graphs.
Right. Okay.
But maybe you can follow up with Jamie to see if he can update those graphs and, you know, have that done on a quarterly basis. The next item I had here was number 24, which was Underwood to look into a cost of service study, which I think you did do some of that. Does that still more work need to be done on that?
I think at some point we just, if the budget's there, you're ready to spend the money. Our engineering report for the water supply is going to recommend that you pursue that with Penachuk. And I think the budget was 30 or 40,000, or the suggested budget from Penachuk was 40,000. It may not cost that much, but that would be something that they would do.
Actually, I believe that it was didn't we authorize that at the last meeting, or
Did you?
one?
I don't remember. I remember talking about it though.
Yeah, let me look into that. I'm wondering if I'm confusing that with the budget prep work. I think we put it into.
It's right here.
Oh,
Take a
okay.
look real quick.
Okay.
Is the last one?
Maybe while Jill's looking at that, we can move on to number 30, we'll come back to it, but discussing the results of the meeting with Penta at the February 21st Board of Commissioners meeting. I think this was like the,
Service.
this was for the post-mortem, I think, right, on wells 4 and 5. I don't think that ever happened, as far as I know.
No, I don't believe it did. I think you were thinking about going to one of the Turkey Hill project meetings. Because
Right.
we weren't having any more for 4 or 5.
And I thought we talked about this at one of the board meetings, and it was kind of a moot point at this. We're just going to kind of carry on because things have been going well. The projects were kind of pushing through, but
I think we said that if Penta is bidding on one of those jobs and make it or not, that we have a briefing with them ahead of the next project and extend our expectations.
Right, so they're not, right?
They currently, so in terms of, just take a step back, I guess, on well 2, we, last week we had only 2 GCs as plan holders for the project. So then we had a bunch of subs and suppliers. So what we did was we reached out to 11 more GCs to see if we can draw some more interest in the project. 3 more people picked up plans that day, and I don't know if any more picked up, right after that, but I knew within 4 hours we had 3 new people, so that was good. And Penta was one of the ones we contacted, but they were not one of the 3s that picked up plans, so I'm not sure if they plan on bidding this. But I did talk to them beforehand, and we sent them that email, so they are certainly aware of it. I'm not sure if, based on workload, if they are planning on bidding it or not.
Yeah, I think at this point, we'd probably wait to see if they, they submit a bid, and if we're interested in going with them, I think maybe we want to talk to them at that point. So I guess we'll leave this on here. Maybe in the next meeting, we can cross it off, because we'll probably know, we'll see the bids by then and whatnot,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I will say, I would like to see such a briefing for all GCs in the future, that the timeline for these projects is very, very critical for us, and that we anticipate a very proactive thinking about how to maintain the timeline, right, and early on in the project. So the fact that it might be another GC doesn't change the fact that we should have that briefing about how important it is for again, our goal is to get people PFAS-free water as early as possible, so we stop the exposure, period, right? So this is not just being difficult because we don't like 84 days extension. It is because we're trying to get people PFAS-free water that they asked for, that they voted for, so, and that they were at this time willing to pay money for, and I think that message needs to be conveyed to the contract. It's not just another project. There's a meaning behind it to get people the least exposure possible.
So we can actually, is that something we want to mention at the pre-bid meeting?
I was just gonna say that, Ron. We can mention that tomorrow at our pre-bid meeting, yeah.
And then we can actually follow up at the bid opening as well and reiterate it again.
Yeah, we definitely can, push it in pre-con, we can talk about it, so we can bring that up to them.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Jill, did you find the thing on the cost of service study?
No,
It's not, no, and Dawn, I'm actually, the more I got to think about it after I had said that, it's budgeted for it. We threw it into the budget.
All right.
A line item. Yeah, I apologize for that.
I knew we accounted for it somewhere. I couldn't remember.
Ron, was that a $40,000 budget line?
Yes, if memory serves me right, yes. We had talked, when we added it into the budget.
Okay. All right, so let me see, what else do we have here? Number 32, Underwood was to double check the water audit in late spring. Did we talk about that earlier today?
Yeah, I think that's checked off, because what we're saying with the water audit is that the reaccounting corrected a lot of the peaks. We don't want to take it off your radar in terms of finding lost water. It just, I think, takes a little pressure off in terms of what's happening in the summer.
Okay. But we could probably cross it off this list then.
Yeah, I think you can.
So that's number 32, Amanda. Everybody in agreement with that? And just 33 is the next one. Revisit the discussion of the rate structure. I think we're scheduling that meeting with a doodle poll next, so we'll keep that on there. And the last one here was Ron was in Keith will reach out to the town regarding sewerage billing.
We're going, yeah, that's right. Yep, that's still an action item.
Yeah, I doubt they're gonna go for it, but if you want to close that loop, go ahead.
Would you be willing to invite somebody to the work session?
Sure.
Maybe
Whoever,
whoever that might be.
I don't think you're even going to get that far, but.
Okay, well, maybe we could try that, Ron. We can talk about some ideas there, but
Yeah, definitely.
extend the courtesy at least.
Right. At least that way we can cross this off the list for the next meeting, I think. All right, sorry to go down this tangent, but I figured there were a bunch of numbers here that we haven't followed up on for a few months, so I figured it'd be good to
So
try to
Actually,
put those
Don.
away.
while we're still on it, do we want to, I know it's number 35, have Amy and Garrett explain how the delineation of the WAPA for 4 and 5? Do we want to cross that one off? Because
Yeah, I guess we can, you just did that today, so, yep.
Yep.
I was just looking at the ones that were specific with Underwood since they were here, so. So I guess in light of that, I don't see anything else you guys had to update us on.
But just before we go, do you want to formally vote on that 75,000? For contingency, or does that need a formal vote?
Yeah, probably should.
Yeah, we probably should vote on that, I think, right?
Yeah, that's, yep.
So it'd be to increase the contingency cap to 75,000 for wells 7 and 8.
Do we want to call it the contingency for 7 and 8
Yep.
at this point? And then anything more than that, then I'll come back to the board.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much the same thing I said, wasn't it?
You probably did. Yeah.
Anybody in favor of making that motion?
So moved.
Who said that? That was Wolf? Okay. That motion is made by Wolf. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Paul. All right, any other questions? If not, we'll call the question, roll call vote. Wolf, how do you vote?
In favor.
In favor, Paul
Vote aye.
and John
I as well.
and Ken
Aye.
and myself, I as well. So that's 500 for that $75,000 contingency. All right, good. That was all I had for Underwood, so we could probably move on if you guys are good.
We're good. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
All right, next on the agenda here is discussing a letter from Frank Goodspeed inquiring if the MVD would like to sell land on Hutchinson Road. And let's see. Do you want to take this one, Ron, or who? I don't know if did he approach you, Ron, on this?
He approached me, and it was just, I guess he's looking at the land, at purchasing some other land that's up around our water tower there on Hutchinson. And then he inquired about this other piece that we own, and I said, well, it doesn't hurt to ask the question. So I said, I would definitely bring it to the board. There is one thing I do want to point out, that we feed, you can't see it from this picture, but Scott Drive is over here, probably to the right of that highlighted piece. Matter of
Ron,
fact-
could you, I don't know if you guys have the package open, but could you maybe possibly share your screen and explain what you're pointing at? Because I'm struggling putting those two maps in my head together, what they mean, how they relate to each other.
I don't think I have it on this.
No, but Dawn, can you screen share?
Yeah, I can. Want me to do that?
Yeah, me. Okay, you should be all set.
It's also nicer for those that may or may not watch this meeting.
Good point. It is kind of hard to visualize.
So you guys seeing this now?
Yes.
Yes.
So what it looks like is this parcel B here And then this little square down here, which says Merrimack Village District, I think those line up with this.
They get this?
Is that correct?
Right there.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That's the one I was actually looking at when you were showing me the other one. I was, so,
So
yes,
These two, I think, are,
what
is
we,
this.
yes, we own that, yes.
so we own this whole shaded green, yellow, whatever that color is.
Yep. So there's a house directly below that. That
Which is
driveway
here.
actually goes out to Scott Drive. So
Right.
that's part of their green space area around that property. So we actually feed to Scott. So Scott Drive is high service. We actually feed, the water line comes through that shaded area that we own. It
So
comes.
this is where our tank is, right, Ron?
It is, yes. So down in the cul-de-sac of Hutchinson Road is where the water main starts, closest to the property line where the easement is. And then it runs along that border, property line into our property. And then it feeds Scott Drive. So it would run along that end there and come off and then feed at the far right corner of that shaded area, and then it would feed Scott Drive from there.
So where's our water line run? Down here right now?
It runs through there
And then goes this way?
yeah,
So we would need to keep an easement or something for our water line on there?
yeah. I mean, if we are considering, we definitely want to go out and actually mark it better, because I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to say I'm not sure where it is. We would want to go out and locate it on the plan. It does run through there, and I'm assuming that it's to that one, the long side of the property there.
On here?
Yeah, I'd say no interest for me.
I second that.
I would agree with that.
That was easy.
And I would agree on that as well. He had asked, I said I'd bring it to the board and we'd go from there. I said,
That means no interest to sell. Is that what
Is
it
he
means?
developing? What is he developing? I'm not understanding. Is
so
it-
he's purchasing the piece. So we actually have an easement going up to where our water tower is. So it kind of splits that.
Right here?
Yeah. So there's property on both sides of that easement.
Okay,
So he's purchasing that piece there,
this one?
both sides, that whole piece with the
So that-
easement.
All right, so this piece.
Yep. Yep. And he was hoping that or asking if we were interested in selling the piece that we own in the back there, that he could kind of expand his property.
And he's looking for the whole piece or just a portion of it? I thought he's looking for a portion of that.
I don't think he had the piece that he was looking at. Yes, he was looking for that corner. I don't think he was aware that we owned that other piece either.
Down here.
Yeah.
So he already owns this piece.
I don't know if he owns it yet. I think
Oh,
he
yeah.
was in the process of purchasing it and was inquiring about the other piece as well.
And
But
do you know?
we don't own this piece right here.
We do not know
We
No,
just own this piece, right?
that. Yes, that square there with the rights through an easement to get up there.
Yeah, and this is the easement.
Yep.
Okay. So we own this little piece here and also this,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
he's asking us to sell this piece to him.
Yes.
I mean, I don't see any benefit for selling it just other than revenue, but I don't know. Is there a reason we want to keep this? I know we have a water line running through it, so that's important, but
Other than that, I mean, if maybe it's an area that we need to go if we need another water tower. I know we did have a tower on there at one point on the lower portion.
right.
You know, If we needed it for something, for, again, for another tower or something like that, we have the land to do it, but.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I'm not in any hurry to, you can never get the land back if you need it. And I don't know how much money we're gonna make on this small parcel, but it's probably not worth it to sell the rights to having this, using this land in the future if we ever needed to.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. And so this raises another question. So we have water lines going through that property that this gentleman is intending
Over
to.
here.
Well, did I hear that we have water
Yes.
going?
And I
Okay.
would imagine there's an easement or something, but I'd have to check on that. It's not showing on that map, but yes, that's how we tied in. Is we came from the cul-de-sac,
Up here,
yep, and along the property line
down here,
and went into that, the piece we own.
here.
And I would say more than likely, we're on the piece that we have the easement on. I would guess it's on that side.
Hmm.
Okay. Doesn't show up anything over here, does it? I don't know.
No.
It's a little. What is that? Was there a water tower here or something before?
I don't know
or
if
what?
that was, to my understanding is the old water tower was down closer. So there used to be an access road from,
Here.
I just lost the name of the road. It's along it's the backside of Scott there. It's Merrill Road, and they're doing some houses on it now. But we used to have a access road to a water tower up off that piece. And I want to say it's the lower portion of that triangle that below the triangle that we own that where the tower was. So I think that was a proposed location for the new tower, and it ended up being in the middle where it is now.
Over here.
Yeah.
All right, well, seems like the feeling of the board, at least 3 of us said that they're not in favor. I don't think so. We could probably move along, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. I'll give my screen back somehow here. How do I do that? Nope, right here. Okay. So you'll get back to that gentleman, Ron?
I will, yes.
All right. Okay, so let's move along. Now we're going to discuss the individual warrant articles and a procedure for annual meeting on March 30. All right. So you want to talk about the procedure, or I assume we're going to each take turns. We're going to have one commissioner assigned to these articles, read them, and then answer questions that arise?
Well, that's the big discussion is that in past meetings, the moderator has read the articles, and then whoever was assigned to it would read the description that was below it. And then then the moderator would ask if there was any questions, and that commissioner would speak to those. The other thing that we've done is turned everything over to the chairman, and maybe you'd be reading the first article, and then everybody else is taking one to read themselves. So that's up to you all to decide if you want to read them or have Mark Nozell read them and you do the descriptions.
I think I'd be in favor of having Mark read the article, and then so this doesn't have the description anywheres in it, like we had at the in the little theater at the public hearing, right?
Nope, these are just the straight one, but I do have, we'll have copies of those for the board as well as for handouts.
Have we read those descriptions before at the annual meeting? Or do we just do that at the public hearing?
Again, it's up to you guys. I know that you guys like to give out as much information as possible, so if that's the way you want to do it, that's the way we can do it.
Yeah,
I think last year, I think the moderator read the descriptions too. I think he just, I think we were ready to, but he just read them.
Right.
right.
So that's why if we were all on the same page this year, we'll let Mark know as well, because as soon as you guys decide, I'll send it out to him so he can do his script.
So what would you guys prefer?
I kind of like the idea of have him read them, and then if we want to read the descriptions.
Yeah, I'd be good with that. Any other ideas?
Well, that works for me.
Okay, so then all we would need to do is to assign each article to a commissioner as far as reading the description, which is not actually shown here, but the descriptions were on the public hearing articles that we saw at the last meeting. I think we went through that right before the public hearing at our regular meeting last month. So I'm sure those could be provided to us
Yep.
Absolutely.
so that we have those.
If you wanted to look at it tonight, it'd be in the public hearing packet.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you want to screen share that one.
Yeah, I think I can. Let me find that. See if I can find that.
You don't have it in here, right?
No, we just had the warrant articles in
Oh,
here.
it's the last meeting.
Huh?
Like,
Yeah.
it's the last meeting, okay.
Hold on, I'm getting there. Okay, let me do this again then. All right, can you guys see that? Can't miss that actually, huh? Let me do this. Okay, so there's really nothing to read on Article 1. Well, I guess there is. So this is the part that we'd be talking about reading, is like the description, basically, I think, in here. Unless, yeah, that's not, everything in italics, I think, is, would be read by a commissioner in this case.
Correct.
Right.
So do you want to have the commissioners do that then? If that's the case, we can just go through these one by one and decide who's going to do that.
Yep.
All right. Anybody want to read Article 1? This part? Purpose of the article is to allow you to vote for your choice of candidate for office. If you would like to vote for someone else's name not on the ballot, simply write the candidate's name of choice in the space provided.
Oh, well.
I was gonna say either Don and I should read this with a growling voice, like a threatening voice or something. Since we're up for re-election.
All right. So Ken will do the first one.
That's perfect.
Number 2, that is for treasurer. And this is what we would be talking about having a commissioner read. Purpose of this article is allow Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners to interview and appoint a qualified candidate for position of treasurer. Responsibilities, yada, yada, yada. Anybody in favor of reading that?
I'll take it.
Okay. Moving on, Article 3, which is just to read the purpose of this article is allow you to vote for choice of candidate for office should Article 2 not pass. I can take that one if no one else wants to. That's all right by me. I'll do Article 3. Article number 4 is basically the budget. This is the operating budget warrant article. The article funds the operation of the district beginning July 1st, ending June 30th. Any takers for that one?
I'll take it. Where am I gonna get a copy of this?
I'll be providing it. I'll actually write everybody's names next to them and then provide copies to everybody at the meeting. Or I can send them out prior to, because there's a copy of this in your public hearing packet, John, from February.
Yeah, I wasn't really going looking for that. I found the Warner articles on the website, so that doesn't have this on here. I just need a copy of this.
I can send it over.
Yep.
All right, article number 5. That's a contingency fund. So again, we would just be reading this text over here.
I can take 5, Don.
Okay. And article number 6 is the non-capital reserve fund for the purposes of emergency water and operations and maintenance of GAC treatment facilities. So this is the part we'd be reading in here. Any takers on that one?
I can take that one too, Don.
All right, sounds good. Article number 7, and that is to raise and appropriate $248,162 for system capital reserve. And this is what would be read over in this area here. I'll take that one if no one else wants that. It's fine by me. So I'll do number 7. And then the last one, number 8, equipment and facilities capital reserve. And this is the part we'd be reading there if anybody wants to take that one.
I'll take it.
Was that Wolf?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so just so we're all on the same page, Article 1 will be by Ken, 2 by Wolf, 3 by me, 4 is going to be John, 5 and 6 is going to be Paul. I'll do number 7 and Wolf will do number 8. And again, we're just reading this italics part after the moderator, which is Mark Nozell, reads the actual article itself. So if you can explain that to Mark, that he'll just read the article and then one of the commissioners will read the description after that. And we'll probably funnel any questions to whoever. I mean, we'll probably take as a priority the commissioner that's been assigned to the article. And if anything else, anybody else needs to fill in. Typically, who's going to be there? Typically, Michelle is going to be there as well, right?
Yeah, myself, Michelle.
Yeah.
We'll have legal there as well.
Yeah. Have we identified who's going to be? If it's Kerry or Greg or somebody else?
We haven't yet, but I think we're going to ask Carrie. Was what Jill and I had talked about. So.
All right. Sounds good. Okay.
That actually surprises me a little bit because I thought we said like the general municipal stuff would be done by Greg.
But he's not intimately aware of what's going on with the rest of the stuff right now.
Okay. And I'm fine with that. I just wanted to remind us that that's what we had said at one point, that the general stuff is going to Greg. But I think we all work well with Carrie, so.
Yeah, she's probably a little more up to speed on everything that we're up to right now too. I agree.
Works for me.
Did you want to go into anything about procedurally for the annual meeting this year? Anything different?
No, I mean, we're gonna have this set up in the 2 stages so that there's, I think 4 in the front, 3 in the back, something like that. 6-foot tables and get the sneeze guards are already there. We have a hand sanitizing station and like tissues and all that stuff for people that want to come in and, wash their hands before or after, or sanitize them before or after. Masks will be required. Supervisors of the checklists are all set. Just double checking with Mark Nozell that he's got ballot counters, because I'm not sure that he talked to Brian, but that's neither here nor there. That's an email that I already sent off today.
Okay.
So ballot box, everything's gonna be just like it was in July, just spread apart.
Okay, and it's at the all-purpose room, right?
Right across from the police station, that school.
Yeah. Can you bring those, just, I want to make sure that we have hard copies there for the commissioners, for us to read those,
Yep.
those
I bring
articles?
all- Yep, I bring all that and pencils, but it's just same setup as the public hearing.
Right. All right, anybody have any other questions about the annual meeting coming up? If not, we can move along to the next item.
Good question, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. There hasn't been much talk about the annual meeting. When are we announcing this on the MVD Facebook page and the MVD newsletter, yada yada?
Yeah, good point.
Because it's coming up pretty quick here.
It's been out there for about a month. Because we have to put it in the newspaper, we have to put the public notice out there and the filing dates and all that stuff.
For some reason I didn't get that notification. Okay. And the newsletter went out too for that meeting already? The newsletter email?
Yeah, the public notice went out into the newspapers, on our website, and the notifications.
The email notification went out?
Yeah,
Really?
Must be in my spam box.
I can double
recall
check, but
that either.
Amy has said that she had sent them out, so.
Hmm.
While we're on it, I don't know if you had another question, Wolf. Are absentee ballots available at the office?
Yep, they were available the day after the public hearing.
Okay, and how do people get those? Do they call and have them mailed to you, or they can come and pick them up?
Either way, they can call me and I'll mail them, or they can stop in and get them, or they can email me, whatever they want.
And then delivering them they can hand them to you at the office or put them in the mail slot?
Yep,
All right, so basically the same as before, nothing's different this time. I didn't know if there are no COVID restrictions to allow people can come and go in the office now, okay, and everything, right?
yep.
Okay. All right, great. What is actually on those ballots? Is there all of these warrant articles there too? Probably not, because they can be changed on the floor, right?
No, the only two things that are on there are the elected positions.
Okay, so just commissioner and treasurer, right?
That's the only one that have ballot votes. The rest of them are majority.
Okay. All right, good to know. All right, we'll move on. Any other questions on this? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to reviewing the minutes from January 25th regular meeting, the February 22nd regular meeting, and the February 22nd public hearing. I've got no comments or edits to offer. Anybody else have anything for corrections or anything? Then maybe we should take these one by one so that we can, some of us might want to abstain from some of them, obviously. So do I hear a motion to approve the January 25th regular meeting minutes?
Yes, I will move to approve the minutes of the January 22nd meeting,
January 25th.
25th.
All right, motion by John to approve as written. Do I hear a second? Second by Ken. All right, any corrections to offer? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with John. Are you in favor of the minutes?
Yes.
And then Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Standing.
you're abstaining, you said?
Yep.
Okay, and Wolf?
Approved.
And myself, I approve as well. So that's 4-0-1 with Paul abstaining for the January 25th minutes. Now we're moving on to February 22nd, regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I heard Paul
Thank you.
first on that one. Second by Wolf on that. Any corrections anybody wants to offer on those? Seeing none, then let's proceed with the roll call. Paul, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Ken?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
And I as well, myself, so that carries 5-0-0 for the February 22nd minutes, the regular meeting, and now we are, do I hear a motion to approve the February 22nd public hearing minutes?
So moved.
That was by Ken? No? Who was that, Paul? Okay, I didn't see. All right, motion by Paul. Second?
Seconded.
Second by Ken. All right, and we'll do a roll call on that. So Paul, how do you vote on those?
I vote aye.
Ken
Aye.
and Wolf,
Abstain. I wasn't there.
right? John
Abstain as well.
and myself, I approve. So that's 3-0-2 with John and Wolf abstaining. All right. So next on the items is Board of Commissioners to review action items from previous meetings. I think we went through most of those. Let's see here. Where am I? This one. I think I can bring those up on the screen if we want real quick. All right, so we're looking at, let's see. I think number 2 is sort of an ongoing thing.
Yep.
Number 12. Did we ever get clarification on that one?
I need to follow up with Carrie. I did email her and she was asking for some more information. I did send that to her. I just need to follow up where that went.
Okay. Number 13, I think that's starting to make some traction, right? So we'll keep that on there. 17, we decided to cancel that one. I think we already covered 19 as well.
Close out, not cancel.
17, close out, yep. 19, I think we're gonna keep, and you were gonna follow up with Jamie, I think, on that, Ron.
Yes.
23. I think, again, that's sort of like a quarterly follow-up.
It is, and we haven't, I think if it would be, I think we actually can do that the next time we go out sampling, we can actually we'll be due to hit those again.
Okay.
Not this week, next month,
April. April, okay.
Yep.
Okay, number 24, I think we left on there. We talked that with Underwood, correct?
Yep.
And let's see, 27. I think that was already done, right? The additional detail, although I don't know if I'm seeing more detail from Jamie's invoices necessarily.
No, but I think he explained that he's a lump sum guy, so typically he ends up going over anyways, but he just bid, that's the way he bids the projects out, is in a lump sum, so it's not an hourly thing.
So it doesn't really matter who's working on it and whatnot.
Right. He says he has, a team of people, and whoever has a free moment goes on to the next thing.
All right. Does the board feel okay with that? enough to cross this off or cross this off our list? All right, then Amanda, I think you can put number 27. You can close that one out. Number 28, the salt restriction bylaw. So that I know Kerry did respond to that. I think we still want to review that in more detail at a subsequent meeting. So I think we probably want to keep 28 on that, just so it kind of reminds us not to lose track of that.
Mhm.
And number 29, contacting attendees of the salt mitigation webinar. I think you're still in the process of that, I believe, Jill.
Right.
And I did want to bring up with Kerry about any new members that want to join this committee, just to maybe have them sign something that says that it's okay for us to include their name and minutes to be published or something like that of any future committee meeting or something. We'll talk about that later when we talk to Kerry about the number 28 thing here. So, and then number 30, do we want to bother with this post-mortem thing with Penta? I think we said we're going to leave it there in case they bid on well 2. We'd want to have a discussion with them. I don't know. I mean, personally, if they're not doing any more work with us, I don't know if it makes sense for me to participate in a post-mortem meeting on wells 4 and 5. But if any other commissioner wants to participate in that discussion with Penta,
I thought we said earlier that we're gonna close this out and instead rely on bringing this point across in future kickoff meetings
okay.
and
All right.
preview meetings and so on.
I probably forgot, then we can close number 30 out then if no one has any objection to that. Again, 31, I think Kerry is in progress with doing that. We need to follow up on that at a meeting. 32, that's being in progress as well. Let's see, revisit the discussion of the rate structure. Yeah, that's a work session that's being scheduled. And then over here, let's see, number 34, reach out to the town. You or Keith is going to do that, right? And I guess number 35, yeah, we decided we can close that one out too. Are you all good with those, Amanda? Okay. All right, so that is the end of that subject. I think the only thing we got left is old business. Anybody has any old business to return to? Ron?
I can just kind of give a little quick update. I did resend the letter out for the SALT committee membership, mitigation committee membership, and to DOT. There was I can never remember their names. The two from DOT have still not replied. PD, Matt Taunton was going to be on the committee, and I just heard back today from Chief Duke and Aaron Olson, who is actually the health officer in town, is actually going to sit on the committee as well, which kind of does line up with what the stuff that Carrie had sent us, and maybe that's all stuff that we can have the ordinance and stuff like that. It's all stuff that we can work on in the committee. I think we have the right people there to go through that process, I think.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know where you want to, if we want to, what the next step is to get DOT. I've emailed them twice. I've put read receipts. So I know they read at least, is it Richard Rondowski? He's reading them. He's just not getting back to me. And the other one's not reading them at all.
Yeah.
I don't know what we want to maybe get into
Well-
the meeting a little bit and have maybe DES can beat up on DOT a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know if DOT just might not have a policy where they just don't participate in these, individual town meetings all over the state, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But when we go and stick no salt signs on Industrial Drive and they salt us, then we can probably raise that issue with them.
Yep. I have driven the wellhead protection areas, and we do have some signage out there. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to say it doesn't make sense. They're kind of stuck in the middle of the wellhead protection area, the sign, and there's not really any delineation of where it starts, where it ends. So that's like kind of where I'm thinking we should probably approach the signs. You run it, maybe have a enter and an exiting sign type of thing.
Yeah, I think this is all something that we can kind of do on the committee, really, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I think, I'd still like to get that map set up and put dots on a map wherever we should put a sign and whatnot, and make sure that they're there. And I think we can go into more detail when we actually start getting together on the committee. I'd also like to reach out to possibly more property owners if we have, I don't know who exactly you reached out to, but I know all along Continental Boulevard from basically Greens Pond going towards exit 11. I was misunderstood, but I believe even the what is it, Hannaford? What's the
Shaw's?
Yeah, the Shaw's Plaza. I think that is in our Aquifer Protection District.
Part of it is and part of it isn't. I think
It goes up to Dobson Street, Dobson
Yeah.
Way or whatever.
I think the last of the Convenient MD and I can't think there's two buildings
Yeah.
right there. One of them is in, I think those are out of the wellhead protection area, but everything else is.
Right. So we can, I'd like to identify at least the specific properties. Maybe you've already done that and sent them out, but I definitely would like to make sure that if we don't get callbacks or any responses, maybe to reach out by phone call, and I don't mind making some of those phone calls myself either. But at some point, if you can compile like the names and addresses that you've sent that information out to, that could be something we can start looking at when we get the committee going and whatnot.
Mhm.
All right, any other old business from anyone? If not, we can move on to new business. Anybody have any new business? No new business, then we can move on to superintendent report.
Really don't have anything to report on, other than I was going to mention that the annual meeting is March 30th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the James Massacola Upper Elementary School, all-purpose room at 26 Babusick Lake Road.
Right. How'd you make out on that pump test discharge line at well 2? Are you finding any piping to use over there?
We're still, I need to follow up with Peter on that. He was supposed to give me some footage and he was going to put together what we need for pipe, then I can get some quotes on it. So
Okay.
it's still in the works, but we're actually looking at the roadway now. It was pretty muddy there last week. So we might be putting some stone in there just to bind it up a little bit, and we're trying to address that because Barry's guys are in there now, still developing that well. So
Right. So we still don't really have a target for a pump test date or anything at well 9.
not yet.
All right. Any questions from the press or public?
Sorry if I circle back for 1 second. An agenda item maybe for the next meeting would be the well 4-5 opening day. We had put that off last year because the weather went down and with COVID and everything. And I just remembered that that might be something we want to start talking about because spring is around the corner. So
Thank you, Wolf. I did want to mention that as well.
if nobody has an objection, let's talk about it next meeting. Put an agenda item out there.
Okay.
I was actually,
Sorry for bringing it up too late. Go ahead.
I was actually thinking as well, and I don't know if the board would be for it, maybe doing like one of those virtual tours through the plant. And, you know, being able to post it on our site. So if somebody wants to kind of, I mean, we're not going to give them a map how to get there, but I mean, we can kind of give a view of what the treatment plant looks like inside. And
Yeah, we've got that video. I don't know that you probably didn't get a copy of that, right? Nancy Murphy had that.
oh, no, I didn't actually.
All right, I can give you that. Maybe that's something we can put on our Facebook page or something. I'll send it to you. You can take a look at it. Let me know what you
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Just questions from the press and public, but I just looked quick here. It doesn't look like we've got anybody on. I think Dave's probably listening in. If Dave's got any questions, you can chime in.
Yep. Hi, Dave.
All right.
He just waved.
So I guess that's it. The next regular Board of Commissioners meeting is for Monday, April 19th. And that is after our annual meeting on March 30th. So if there's no other last statements, I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Wolf,
Seconded.
second by Ken. We'll do roll call. Wolf, how do you vote?
Very much in favor.
In favor. Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
I vote aye.
John,
Yes.
and I myself, that carries 500. Thanks for hanging in, everybody. And we'll see you on March 30th. Thank you.
Have a good night.